In this training module, on the Test Delivery System, or TDS, we will cover the basics of online administration of the Alt-ELPA assessments. Please note that the example images shown in this training module may vary slightly from your state system. For example, additional options may appear in the system if other assessments are available in your state. Additionally, test names may vary from one state to another. Apart from these surface-level differences, the following processes and functions are accurate for all states administering Alt-ELPA assessments. The Test Delivery System, TDS, includes the student interface used by students to navigate through the test and the test administrator, TA, interface used by TAs to manage test sessions and monitor student testing progress. After viewing this presentation, you should be able to use the test administrator interface to start and run a test session. View student test settings and accessibility resources. Monitor the testing process. Pause and stop a test session. Print test session information, and exit and log out of the test administrator interface. The procedures for administering operational tests and practice tests using a TA session are identical. We strongly recommend that all test administrators administer a practice test before they administer an operational test. Two test administrators may want to work together while doing this for the first time, with one test administrator as the teacher and one as the student. Students should always take a practice test to become familiar with the software before they take an operational test. The TA interface is used to create and manage test sessions that students join to complete online tests. To log into the TA interface, go to your portal. Click the appropriate user role card. On the next page, click the system card used for operational or practice test administration. Enter your username and password, and then click Secure Login to continue. Once the test administrator has logged in according to the directions on the previous slide, they will see the test administrator interface with the test selection window. From the test administrator interface, you can access the features you need to create and manage test sessions, look up students, and access help information. The first step in administering a test is to create a test session. This should be done less than 20 minutes prior to starting the test, in order to prevent the system from timing out. To create a test session, click one or more tests to administer. You can click the plus sign button next to a category name to view the tests in that category. You may select all available tests listed, for all grade levels and all content areas. Students will only have access to the tests you select that they are eligible to take. Once you select a test, an alert appears instructing you to use the correct test administrator directions and scoring rubrics booklet during testing. Click OK. The Start Session button of the window activates. Click the Start Session button. Please note, the exact name of this button may vary depending on whether the TA is in the Practice Test Administration site or the Operational Test Administration site. The system will automatically generate a session ID. This ID must be provided to students in order for them to log in. The test administrator may write it on the board or provide it to students using a printed card or similar method. If you do provide students with the information on paper, be sure to collect and destroy it when the session is complete. You should also note the session ID for your own records. If you are involuntarily logged out of the session due to an inactivity timeout or other event, entering the session ID will allow you to resume the session. If you do not have this information when you try to resume, you will be unable to do so. After starting a test session, the session ID appears at the top of the test administrator interface along with a stop button. When a student signs into the test session, an approvals button also appears next to the session ID. Once the test administrator approves the student for testing, the test session table appears in the center of the test administrator interface, displaying the student's testing progress. Additional features are available in the banner at the top of the screen. At the top of the screen, you will see a set of buttons and your username. You can click Student Lookup to search for student information and verify that the student's login credentials are correct. Click Help Guide to access additional information about the TA interface. Click Approved Requests under Menu to view a list of student print requests that you approved during the test session. Click Print to print a screenshot of the TA interface. Click Log Out under your username when you want to exit the TA interface. If a student is having trouble logging in, use the Student Lookup feature to verify that the student's login credentials are correct. You can use either the Quick Search or Advanced Search option to view the information entered for the student in the Test Information Distribution Engine, or TIDE. With Quick Search, you simply enter the student's state-assigned student ID and click the Submit button. Advanced search allows you to narrow your search using several filters, including district, school, grade, and first and last name. When using either quick search or advanced search, if the search results in matches, the information will appear in the bottom of the window. If there is no match, you will see an error message. If you see the student you are looking for, click the I button next to the student's name. A new window displaying the student's information will display. Note that the information displayed may vary slightly from what is shown here. Next, we will look at what students see when they log in to take a test. If you see the student you are looking for, click the I button next to the student's name. A new window displaying the student's information will display. Note that the information displayed may vary slightly from what is shown here. Next, we will look at what students see when they log in to take a test. To log into the online testing system using the secure browser, students must enter 3 pieces of identifying information: their first name, their SSID, and the current session ID. Only the session ID is unique for each test administration and each proctor, so this is the only information that will change through this test window. TDS allows teachers to print out student information on test tickets so students can log into the online testing system without needing to memorize their SSID number. The session ID is generated when the test administrator creates the test session. It needs to be given to students by the test administrator when it is time for them to log into the test. Session IDs should not be generated more than 20 minutes before students are ready to log in. After entering their information, students will click the Sign In button and then enter a session ID to log into the test. The test administrator may assist students with logging in, if necessary. If a student or test administrator is having difficulty logging in, an error message and code will display on the login screen. The most common errors occur when the student's first name and SSID do not match what is in the system and when SSIDs are entered incorrectly. If the student or test administrator receives an error message indicating that they have entered incorrect information in the first name or SSID fields, the TA should use the student lookup tool in the TA interface to verify the student's information. Another common error occurs when a student or test administrator enters an incorrect session ID. If the student or test administrator receives the message, "The session is not available for testing," verify that the session ID was entered correctly, with no extra spaces or characters. The session ID can be found in the TA interface. If the student or test administrator receives the error message "Session has expired," ensure that the correct session ID was entered for the current session. If the student or test administrator has entered the session ID correctly, use the TA interface to verify that your session is still open. Finally, ensure that the student and TA are both using the appropriate practice or operational test sites. After logging in, the student or test administrator needs to complete a few more steps before they begin testing. Students will be asked to view and verify their personal information. If their information is correct, the student or test administrator should click Yes to proceed. If their information is incorrect, they should click No to return to the login page. Test administrators must then contact their building or district test coordinator to have the student's information updated in TDS before the student attempts to log in again. On your test screen, the student and test administrator will see a list of the assigned tests for this test session. Alt-ELPA has separate tests for reading, writing, listening, and speaking. TAs should only include the tests that they want the student to take in the test session. TAs should only include the tests that they want the student to take in the test session. If the test displayed is incorrect, or the expected test is not listed, the student or test administrator should click the Back to Login button to return to the login page so the test administrator can consult TDS. If a test has already been completed, the Test Selection button will be grayed out. If there are no errors, the student or test administrator should select the correct test and the test administrator should approve the request via the Test Administrator interface. The test administrator can approve the student by clicking the Approvals button on the TA interface. When approving the student, it is important to pay close attention to the test name to be sure that the appropriate test was selected. The test administrator should ensure that all student settings are correct by using the I button in the See Details column. When you click the I button, a pop-up window will appear that allows you to verify that the student has the correct test settings and make changes to them, if necessary. See the TDS User Guide for more information about test settings. Once you have confirmed that the student's test settings are correct, click Set to save the changes and return to the main Approvals window, or click Set and Approve to save changes and approve the student's entry into the test session. If no changes are needed, click the green check mark next to a student's name to approve that student. The test administrator should deny the student entry into the session in these circumstances. the student is not supposed to enter this session. The student's demographic information is incorrect. The student's required accommodations appear to be incorrect, and the TA needs to gather more information. If the student's test settings are incorrect, the settings can be updated in TIDE or in the TA interface before the student takes the test. Note that no settings can be changed while the student is actively testing. The student must pause the test and log out if necessary to change the student's test settings. Once the student is no longer actively testing, the student's test settings can be updated in TIDE. After selecting a test, the student and test administrator will see an Audio-Video Checks page. They will be prompted to click the ear icon and indicate whether the sound was audible by choosing either the I heard the sound or I did not hear the sound button. If the student or test administrator clicks I heard the sound, they will proceed to the test. If they click I did not hear the sound, they will receive a message advising them to tell the test administrator that they are having an audio problem. From there, they can click try again to listen to the sample audio again or click the logout icon at the top right corner of the page to leave the test and work with the test administrator to adjust their audio settings. After completing the audio-video checks, the student and test administrator will see the instructions and help page. When the student or test administrator clicks View Test Settings, they will be presented with the Review Test Settings screen where they can review their test settings. When the student or test administrator clicks Begin Test Now, they will be presented with the first question of the test. The Review Test Settings screen displays the name of the test and whether or not any accessibility resources have been selected. If the information is correct, the student or test administrator should select OK. Note that the actual settings students see may vary from what is shown on this slide. Be sure to refer to the scripts, located in the Alt-ELPA tab, to guide students through the login and confirmation process. The student testing site displays alternate assessments in full screen mode with the global menu hidden by default. To proceed to the next question, students select the green Next button. To exit full screen mode and access the global menu, students select the icon in the upper left corner. Students enter their first name and enter OK. The global menu appears at the top of the screen. The left side of the global menu contains navigation buttons that the student or test administrator use to advance through the test. Students or TAs can navigate between pages using the back and next arrow buttons. They can also navigate between items using the Items drop-down menu located above the navigation buttons. The Save button ensures that a response is committed to the system. However, the Save button is not required to save an item. Other actions, such as moving forward to the next question, will also save the response. The Pause button pauses a student's test and logs the student out of the student interface. The right side of the global menu contains test tools that students may use during testing. Some test tools, such as the Zoom In and Zoom Out buttons, are universal tools available to all students. Other tools are designated supports or accommodations that must be set up in TIDE in order for students to use them. For more information on managing test settings and accessibility resources in TIDE, refer to the TIDE User Guide. For a detailed list of all available test tools and accommodations, including non-embedded accommodations, please consult the Alt-ELPA Accessibility and Accommodations Manual on your state's portal. Finally, students and test administrators can access the help guide at any time by clicking the question mark in the upper right corner of the toolbar. Some test items contain one or more audio clips. The student or test administrator can pause the audio or replay the audio clip by clicking the ear icon. Note that only one audio clip can play at a time. In order to play a different clip, the students or TA must pause the clip that is currently playing. The student or test administrator may use the context menu to mark items for review, send print requests to the TA interface, if test settings and state policy allow, and access additional test features. Print on request will only be available in states that allow this feature. Authorized users should review the Alt-ELPA, Accessibility and Accommodations Manual, posted in the Resources section of the portal, for information regarding which students are eligible to use this test setting, as well as all the available test settings. Depending upon whether they are allowed to print items, passages, or both, students with this accommodation will see either a Print Page button at the top of the screen, a Print Item option in the context menu, or both. When a student or TA clicks either of the print options, the TA will receive a request for approval. We will discuss how TAs approve print requests later in this presentation. The student or TA will see a pop-up message that indicates that the request for approval has been sent. Test items that the student or TA has requested to print will display with a small printer badge next to the item number. To flag an item for later review, the student or TA selects Mark for Review from the context menu. After marking an item for review, the item will be flagged both on the item page and the drop-down navigation menu. Additionally, the item number at the upper left of the item will appear with a folded corner. As a security measure, after 20 minutes of test inactivity, students are logged out, and their tests are paused automatically. Inactivity is determined by whether or not the student is interacting with the test, by selecting answers or using navigation tools. Students will receive a warning message prior to being logged out, and must click OK on the pop-up message within 20 seconds, in order to avoid automatic logout and pausing of their test. If a student's test is paused, the student can log back in at any time during the test window to resume testing and change answers. Additionally, if a screensaver is activated during testing, the security breach feature will log the student out of the test. To avoid any such interruption, schools should either deactivate screensavers before students start testing, or ensure that screensavers are set to more than the allocated testing time. When a student answers the final question on their test, they will be taken to the review screen, where they have the choice to review their answers or submit the test. On the review page, the student or TA may click any item to review it and change their answer. Unanswered questions are identified with an orange triangle icon, and questions flagged for review are identified with a blue flag. While reviewing items, students may return to the review page at any time by clicking the review button under the item's drop-down menu. Students who are ready to submit their tests should click Submit Test to finish. After clicking the Submit Test button, students will receive a confirmation pop-up message, asking if they are sure they want to submit. Clicking No will return them to the review screen. Clicking Yes will take them to the end screen, which shows a message indicating that the test was successfully submitted, and advising the student to log out. While the student is taking their test administrator can monitor their status from the students in your operational test session table on the TA interface. The table shows student name, SSID, opportunity number, test name, test status, test settings, and an actions column. The progress column indicates the student's progress through the items in the test. It shows the total number of items completed thus far and the total number of items in the test. The test settings column will display either standard or custom. This column displays custom when a student's test settings are different from the default settings for that test. Click the I button to view a student's test settings. The Actions column displays a notification when students request a printout or pause a test. Students with a print on request accommodation can request printouts of stimuli and/or items, depending on their settings. When a student sends a print request, the Printer button will appear in the Requests column on the test administrator's monitoring screen. Click the button to view the request. If you click the check button to approve the print request, a cover sheet containing the student's name and SSID will display in a new browser window. No test content will ever display on your screen. Click Print in the new window to complete the print request. A printer dialog box will display. Click OK to send the request to the printer. If you click the X button to deny the print request, nothing will be printed. Before approving the student's print request, ensure that it will be sent to a printer that is monitored by staff who have been trained in test security. All printed test items, stimuli, and reading passages must be securely stored and destroyed immediately following a testing session. The Approved Requests button allows the test administrator to view a list of every print request they approved during the current session. To print this list for your own records, click Print at the top of the Print Requests window. If you wish to print a snapshot of the test administrator interface in its current view, click the Print Session button. This can be useful for tracking which tests a student completed, and whether they need to be scheduled for another test session. It may be necessary to set the page layout to landscape or adjust the margins in the print preview screen for the list to fit on the page. Remember that any printouts containing personally identifiable student information must be securely stored and should be destroyed after use. To pause an individual test, click the Pause button on the monitoring screen. When prompted, click OK to confirm that you want to pause the test. When a student has finished testing, click Stop to end the test session. If a session stops, it cannot be resumed. The test administrator will have to create a new session and give the new session ID to students so that they can resume testing. To log out of the test administrator interface, click the Log Out button in the upper right corner of the screen. A confirmation message will appear, asking you to confirm that you want to exit the site and pause all in-progress tests. Click Yes to proceed. It is preferable to log out only after stopping your active test session, as logging out will cause all in-progress tests to be paused. This scenario also occurs when you navigate to another site from the Test Administrator interface. However, regardless of when or how you log out or navigate away from the Test Administrator interface, student data will not be lost. If the Test Administrator needs to access another application, we recommend opening it in a separate browser window. If you forget to log out before leaving the testing area, the session will close automatically after 30 minutes of inactivity on both the Test Administrator and student computers. The Test Administrator would then need to create a new session and provide the new session ID to students in order to resume testing. This table presents some of the common issues that test administrators or students may encounter during a test session. Please take a moment to review this information. For more detailed information and additional technical tips, please refer to the Alt-ELPA Test Administration Manual and the Technical Resources for Technology Coordinators on the State Portal. Thank you for viewing this training module. If you need additional information, please take some time to review the resources posted on your state's portal. For further assistance, please consult your state's help desk.